Austin Dillon doing a dump and run, Joey Logano showing his anger following a race on pit road, and people upset because women were out there holding babies on a hot pit road. You know what's crazy about this? Is Denny Hamlin, Austin Dillon, Joey Logano. They're all part of the Coca-Cola racing family. Imagine what those reunions are like. Oh man, we got a lot to talk about.
3, 2, 1.
What's up, everyone? Hope everybody out there is having a great day. Cool Monday here. After all the action that happened at Richmond this weekend, man, I was not going to do an episode on this today. I was actually going to wait until we found out what was going to happen with this right here. But it's been in my mind all day. I've been running around cleaning up, finally getting to clean up from old Tropical Storm Debbie there. I've been in the yard all day, and everybody's got, you got coffee with Kenny out there, and I'm hot, tired, so we're going to have beer with Todd here this afternoon or this evening, but cheers. I got to talk about this because I got online last night after the race. First of all, I watched the race, had my own feelings, my own thoughts with everything. Then I got online to see a bunch of other people's comments and everything else, and I've got different parts of this that I want to talk about. Now, I'm going to start out with this way right here. I've seen a lot of people saying this is a result of the playoffs. This is because of the playoffs. You got to do this and everything else. I'm going to tell you right now, whether Austin Dillon was going to be secured a spot in the playoffs or not, he was going to do that. That was going to happen just because, I mean, come on, at that point, he's had, 4 wins? So he's trying to get his 5th in his long career. So he's going to do what he needed to do to get that win. Now, I also want to say this. I heard different drivers say that this is setting a bad precedent for other drivers coming up through and everything else. Kids don't need to see this and everything. And I'm going to tell you myself right now. I first started racing at the age of 12 in the, 83, 84, whatever it was, in go-karts. And I'm going to tell you, at that age, back then, people punted my ass out of the way at different times, and I did it to some people at different times. So this has been going on for a long time. It's not something new, and but this is different. I'm going to go into why I feel this one right here is different than so many others. But let's go into this right now. Here's my other part. How many times is Ryan Preece going to be in an incident that brings out a caution at the end of the race that kind of dictates the way the rest of the race goes? This is wild, and I'm not bashing on him in any way. It's just crazy how many times he seems to be in this situation like this. And, that's wild in its own right. But let's get to that restart to start with. Actually, let me back up. Let's go to this point. Austin Dillon had that race won. Prior to that little incident there with Stenhouse and Ryan Preece, man, that was his race. This was his race. And I was like, damn, they've earned this. They're working for this. That's great. It's cool to see. But when they line back up and they get back out there, obviously Austin hasn't been on the front row that many times here recently, or I don't even know through history how many times like this for a restart, but he didn't do it right. He didn't time it right. It didn't happen right. Joey Logano gets out there, gets the lead, and it looked like it was going to be Joey's race. But you knew Austin was going to come in there and do something, at least going to try something, because he had to. He'd been dominant so far all day like that. Him and Suarez. I mean, come on. Got to give it up for Daniel, too. But had a good run going, and he meleeed it. He meleeed it in there. That was a checkers or wreckers moment, meaning I'm either going to checker flag or I am wrecking everybody. That kind of seemed to be the way that it turned out to be. But I'm going to say this much right here. I am not a fan of the dump and run. And that's what this was. This was a dump and run. This wasn't, you're racing, you bump somebody, give them a little chance to gather it back up, and you race back to the finish. This was an obvious, I'm way back here. I'm putting it in there as hard as I can go, and I'm either going to catch you and spin you, or I'm going to crash myself. And that's the epitome of checkers or wreckers. And that's what happened in this situation. People can call it any way they want to, and that's great because everybody's got their opinion, and I'm giving mine. That I just think that was crazy. But I understand the situation with the situation that Richard Childress Racing is in. But I don't like it. I don't like it. I never have, and I never will. And I think it's time for NASCAR to draw a line in the sand And I'm going to say something right now that will probably not be a popular view in any way, but this is how I feel about it. This is the way I think things need to be kind of done. Because if you pay attention to Dale Jr. and Kevin Harvick and everything that's going on over there in the Cars Tour, I just did an episode on this where the guy's coming to the checkered flag and he intentionally knocks somebody out, spins them out of the way, crashes them to win the race. Well, guess what? You're not winning the race. And that's what happens so many times now in NASCAR. And what's crazy about this is because you have two different levels of fans. You have fans who were witness racing back in the day, and then you have fans who witness racing now. You know, I mean, I'm talking the last 15, 20 years of people who gather what they saw. But when you take old racers, because I've heard different people compare this to Dale Earnhardt and Darrell Waltrip at Richmond, back at the old fairgrounds type speedway and things like that. This was a different type of racing back then. It didn't justify anything, but this is the way these guys drove, and they beat and banged down each other like this all the time. But they also raced hard with each other so many times, and that's how they won so many races and championships. This wasn't that. This was a malicious bombing it into the turn to try to get into the playoffs, try to get that win, and that's what happened. So many people are saying this was completely for the playoffs, but in my opinion, this was going to happen either way. Now, again, here we go back to, here's what I'd like to see. Here's what I think needs to be done. I think the win stays. Let them keep the win. You keep the win. But you're suspended for 1 week. And there's not going to be a waiver. No waiver at all. And I think there should be 2 fines. $25,000 fine for each incident that happened. But here's what I don't like, and here's what I would change if I was in NASCAR. Instead of paying that fine to NASCAR on this, you pay the teams that you just crashed. That would hurt a hell of a lot more worse than having to give over the money to NASCAR. They have to personally give a check or cash, however you wanted to do it, to the team that you just took out. And that would start making these guys think a little bit harder about the things that they do, because that would be humiliating at one point, costly at another, and make you think a little bit harder the next time you go in there and do something like this. I also think that the spotter should be suspended for 3 races for saying wreck him. He's not in the car. That's obvious. He doesn't have to wreck anybody. But don't be hyping up your man to wreck somebody like that, because that's not cool. That is not cool. But here's the other weird part about this, and the truth part about this. They can't do that to Austin Dillon, because, as so many people have stated already, Denny's crashed people like this, Joey's crashed people like this. It's something that's been happening. But that's the fault of NASCAR, because they continue to let things like this happen, especially now with the playoffs, because so many people do get in this way. And, well, we usually see how long they last in the playoffs once this happens. But with that said, it's time for NASCAR. Stand up, draw a line in the sand, and say, no more. We can't do this no more like this, because if you do, this is what's going to happen. And I think a scenario putting out there is of this is what could have happened to Austin. This is what we will do going forward. But we're not going to do it right now, because we'd be showing favoritism to all the other people who got away with it in the past. So crazy things with this. And, you know, I compare it to this way right here. And I know people will say I'm wrong on this, and I'm completely cool with that. But I look at it this way. If you take a marathon's a race, right? You know, it's different because people are running on their feet and they're not in a car or anything like that. But yet it's a race, and the best man wins. But if you had 2 people coming down to the line, and the guy that's in second knows he can't win, so he purposely sticks his foot out there and trips the guy in front of him, who falls and now is injured and is not even going to finish second or anything else, you would say that was cheating. That was blatant cheating to win, because you knew you couldn't win the race, and that was the only way you were going to do it. That's kind of what happened last night at Richmond. So, again, I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me, and that's cool. And I love to see the beating and banging. I love to see the racing to the checkered flag. I love to see the bump and runs. But a dump and run, totally different, totally uncalled for. And I don't like it. I don't like it, because it takes away from what the sport was built on. Beat and bang. And there's another thing about this too. Back then, a lot of these guys, they would confront each other in ways that they didn't have all the the people around them. I mean, you look at drivers now, they got posses around them constantly. And, you know, that brings me to one other point. Because following this race, when you seen Joey Logano come in there, he was pissed. He said he was pissed. He pulled up in the 3's pit box, did his little burnout, which, as horrible as that car was, that was pretty wild to start to see right there. But then the NASCAR officials flew right on him because he did that. And people were saying, there's babies out there. There's women with babies in the pit box. Well, why the hell are there women in the pit boxes? Well, pit road is still hot, holding babies. Makes no sense to me. Makes zero sense to me of why that's going on. That is still a hot pit road. Anything can happen. We've seen that in the past. People run into each other. They bump each other. Some do some wild, outrageous things on pit road right there. Why are you there with your baby? I wouldn't be there with my baby. Ain't no damn way. And my kid was at the racetrack with me when he was little in the pit area. He stayed at the trailer. He wasn't out there on the damn racetrack or right next to it. So I think there's a lot of things people need to evaluate, especially NASCAR right here, to say we need to make some changes. And it's time we do something, because if we don't, something bad is going to happen. And man, anyways, that's just my thoughts. I'm going to go finish the rest of my beer and enjoy my evening. Hope y'all are having a great week. And man, throw them thoughts down there. Love to talk about this because that's what I'm here for. But anyways, hope you're off to a great week. And as always, we'll see you at the checkered flag.